The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know the hour is late, but I'm sure that the government spent considerable energy preparing a response in the matter of a question that I put to the government on November 19th and received an unsatisfactory answer. And so here we are for a late show, and I guess putting the late show tonight. So I asked the Minister for Small Business to stand up for small business and instruct her government to respect the will of Parliament and instruct them to postpone the wage subsidy audits on small businesses. The answer that came that day did not come from the Minister for Small Business, to whom I put the question. It came from the Minister for National Revenue, who I'm not sure if she was listening to the question. Her response didn't really address it, and it was wholly unsatisfactory. So I hope that the government, and in particular the Minister for Small Business, shares my concern about small businesses and understands that small businesses really are the lifeblood of our economy. They employ people in our communities, and they've had to make heartbreaking choices as they cope with the pandemic. I know every MP in this chamber has had to deal with just businesses in their ridings and the things that they're going through. So when in September, small businesses, some of them received a letter from the CRA that contained a checklist of documents that was about 6 pages long. This came at a time, Mr. Speaker, when small businesses didn't even know if the support programs that were expiring in September were going to be continued, what the details of any continuation of these programs might be, and yet they were being told to, within 10 days, drop everything and put together these and complicated lists of items. And small businesses are in survival mode. Many of them, an enormous proportion of our small businesses, do not know if they are going to make it through even to Christmas, what next year is going to look like. And so our motion really was a common sense motion in support of our small businesses. It was supported by the Bloc, by the NDP, by the Green Party. Even 2 out of the 3 ex-Liberals that are now sitting as independents supported this motion. So it was only the governing party that did not support this motion. And at this point, having had the experience of that vote, it is no longer about just the substance of that motion, but it's about respecting the will of Parliament. Parliament has spoken. The members that are elected by Canadians have spoken and instructed this government to postpone the audits until at least after the tax season. And the government has still given no indication that they will respect the will of Parliament. In fact, they've given a contrary view on this. So we continue to call upon the government to, if they won't recognize the merit of the motion itself, will they at least accept the will of Parliament and publicly show some kind of support and level of support for small businesses. This small business this government has a very difficult relationship now with small businesses. We all know about the draconian tax changes that they proposed in 2017. We know about the comments that its leading members of its government have made. The Prime Minister has, I see is my time up, Madam Speaker. I'll let the government respond from there.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resource of National Revenue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good evening to everyone. I'm very happy to respond to the question from the member for Calgary Rocky Ridge regarding the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy and its effect on small businesses. Madam Speaker, the Canada Revenue Agency recognizes that businesses and organizations of all sizes have been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and is making it a priority to deliver CEWS and the new Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy payments as quickly as possible. Since the start of the pandemic, the Government of Canada has worked closely with businesses to understand their needs and provide them with support that will help them quickly rehire workers laid off due to COVID-19. And since the beginning of the pandemic, the CRA has, time and again, mobilized in a concerted and nimble way to develop and implement in record time the numerous programs and systems needed to quickly deliver funds to businesses and individuals during this very difficult time. In the case of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, 1.6 million claims were processed, representing almost $50 billion worth of support delivered to employers. This is an outstanding accomplishment. The CRA is committed to maintaining a balance between making emergency funds accessible to businesses who urgently need this support while preserving the fairness and integrity of our tax system and administering the laws adopted by Parliament. Conducting verifications is one of the ways that the CRA can protect the integrity of its programs that provide needed support for businesses and communities using tax dollars. The initial CEWS verifications included a limited sample and covered a wide range of businesses. In fact, CEWS post-payment verifications impact less than 0.1%, again, 0.1% of CEWS recipients. Small businesses were not being unfairly included. There have been fewer than 90 verifications involving small businesses. This is in spite of the fact that small businesses, which have been hit the hardest by the pandemic, have accounted for over 70% of applications in each period of the CEWS were from small businesses. Madam Speaker, is plain for any reasonable person to see that small businesses here have, in fact, not been being unfairly included as part of these necessary and useful verifications. The CRA must do its due diligence and ensure those receiving emergency response benefits are entitled to them. Canadians can have confidence that the CRA will protect the integrity of programs that provide needed support for businesses using their tax dollars. The preliminary results from post-payment verifications will inform the CRA not only on the level of compliance with respect to this benefit program, but also on conducting compliance activities during the COVID-19 pandemic and, by extension, other global crises. Given the size of the CEWS, the CRA needs to administer it fairly for all employers. Preliminary CEWS verifications selected a limited sample, and they are in many business ranges. Madam Speaker, I would mention in closing that we respect and acknowledge the House's formal opinion on this important matter as articulated in a resolution of the House adopted on November 4th, 2020. I can assure Canadians that the CRA is committed to maintaining a balance between making emergency funds accessible to businesses who urgently need this support while preserving the fairness and the integrity of our tax system and administering the legislation as adopted by Parliament. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Well, Madam Speaker, the government can't have it both ways. It can't say that it respects the will of Parliament while it ignores the will of Parliament. Parliament made it voted on November 4th, and the government should just simply do what Parliament had asked of it and declare that they will hold off until June. That's what Parliament instructed or asked the government to do. The parliamentary secretary, as recently as earlier this evening, heard at Finance Committee just how onerous these audits are and how complicated their application processes and some of the difficulties and challenges around small business. It's time for this government to show small businesses a little more respect than it has since it was elected in 2015.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The government's investment in Canadian businesses via the CEWS means that hundreds of thousands of Canadian businesses and millions of employees will be able to keep their staff on the payroll and their doors open. As I previously stated, the CRA is committed to maintaining a balance between making emergency funds accessible to businesses who urgently need this support while preserving the fairness and integrity of our tax system and administering the laws as adopted by Parliament. To date, almost $50 billion has been paid to 1.6 million claims who have applied for the CEWS. The CRA recognizes the economic challenges that have resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that the audit process can have on businesses. For this reason, the CRA has proceeded carefully in order to protect both businesses and the broader economy, which remains vulnerable due to the pandemic. The CRA wants to reassure business owners across Canada that it will be as flexible as possible with deadlines for information requests, given the hardships of the ongoing pandemic, in line with our people-first approach.